I believe it's working. Hello. Hi, Aenoy. How you
Hello.
doing?
Hey,
How's everything going?
it's going good.
Good. How are you on this Martin Luther King Jr. holiday?
Hmm. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. What about yourself?
I'm doing all right. I am doing my best to be grounded in the moment while my dog is behind me barking. Drive me a little crazy. Oh. So I'm doing okay, just trying to figure out why we're not on Instagram right now. So it might take a second for me to figure out why we're not on Instagram unless we are. This software is interesting. Hmm.
Yeah, you talking about while you're setting up, like being grounded in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
how it's supposed to be something we know how to do, like just to be present. But we've really lost that, right? We've lost it, and now we have to learn because while we're here with somebody, we're looking on our phone, or we're
Yeah.
thinking about something else, work or dinner or whatever is stressful,
Yep.
um, finances. So it's been difficult to be in the moment with people um, when they're right in front of us. So that's a reminder, And I think that's why today I kind of uh, took the day off from social media just to kind of hang out. It snowed here, and
Oh wow.
it was a day off, and it was perfect. It was like that's the day that we're gonna do something as a family, as um, with my kids. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
That's dope. I think today, like it's like my first official day back to work. Um, I don't even know what work is or what that means right now. And
Mm.
so just hearing you share how you just took the day off social media and did some intentional family time, that brings me so much joy to know that you did that while I'm doing the exact opposite. What did y'all do today?
We went outside the house and we played with snow. And we came back in. We ate. I had my fourth day of pho, and then we went back out to meet with friends at a place called Ivy Hill. It's where
Mm-hmm.
the hill and a park, and then everyone's like the whole neighborhood is there sliding down the hill. And my son was like, "We saw like 50 people from Strathmore." I'm like, "I know." So it's kind of cool. They got to meet friends after those friends met, and other friends came, and it was nice.
Oh, that's so dope.
Yeah.
I spent my morning. What did I spend my morning doing? Being in community. So since 7 a.m., we have been building beloved community in our virtual space. And it was really just to keep us grounded while they are having all those celebrations of, is this number 47 or 46?
I think it's
Whatever.
47 now.
Yeah, the 47th president. So it's just been nice to just laugh, talk, get some play activities done. And now here I am with you, keeping it real, having a conversation, checking in.
Yeah. I think they want us to be fixated on that stuff. And the more we fixate it, the more we go back and forth with people.
Yep.
Um, and
I
at the
think
end of the day, it's like the same thing. So it's like, what are we, whether win or lose, tit for tat, like what are we actually rooting for? Like we keep centering the people that we don't want to control us, right?
that's exactly what it is. It's, I've seen a lot of posts around state sponsored media. And to me, that's what today was. And it was so much of it that people forgot it was Dr. King Jr.'s birthday. And people have been leaving apps, which we'll talk about. But like, this is a distraction from the real work of building community because they know that politics will keep us divided. That if they can keep a divide of this illusion of pick a side, we stay in this binary and all we do is fight with each other. And I don't want to take away from anybody's feeling of like real grief from today, like, but I'm starting to ask myself, where am I putting my attention? Because if my attention can be manipulated, am I putting myself in those situations versus being in choice? Because I think liberation is about being in choice.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You got people on both sides wanting to come back. And this isn't like I don't do it. I do it too. Sometimes I get wrapped up in it and it's like, okay, you're a little wrapped up in it, but the work is not really to win an argument. Like the work is to learn to garden. The work is to be present with my kids, to teach my kids the right things, and to be truly kind to all types of people. Um, and then to go along with like there's goals I have for them, and like I forget those things when I'm like constantly centering whatever it is that's happening, and we fall for it, right? We fall for the TikTok ban, like the biggest TikTok propaganda I've ever seen, and I'm like, oh my goodness, did we just all fall for this? And we sure did.
I have to unmute myself. That TikTok ban, like speaking of that propaganda, yes. And it was just really abusive. One of the followers on Threads had made this comment like, I wonder how many people took their life because they didn't have their connection or they thought they were losing. I didn't think about it. I was like, damn, that's deep. But how many people who thought that this one point of connection for them was going to be gone and they took their own life? And I'm like, damn, while we know social media, like, damn, how many people are using it for survival, for their mental health outside of the propaganda?
Yeah, COVID hit. A lot of people hit, TikTok running. It became their second income, the way they made money at home,
Yeah.
um, their connections, the polarization, and people who don't fit in with their community, found community.
Mhm.
There's a lot of feeling that you cannot underestimate spaces like that. Like as much as we like,
Yeah.
oh, it's just social media, you know, people really do feel validation and be seen in these spaces.
Yeah. I I think that's the one part that keeps me on social media. I know everyone's like, get rid of this app, get rid of that app. That's our protest. We're protesting these apps. And I'm like, that is just such a privilege. I mean, you're also in choice, but like to me, it's essential for me, right? Coming off still recovering from long COVID. Like we're leaving folks behind who do really build that solid community on social media. And like I came to the realization this morning, I went live and I was like, if we really want to keep it real, like we don't own it, right? And social media is like an airport. And all of our little spaces that we rent at this airport are departure gates. And I think people can choose what gate they want to land on. And I think the problem becomes is when you go on somebody's gate and start arguing and think you know what people want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, people are in choice for what they want to do and how they want to live their life and where they want to focus their energy. It's not, I've been saying for years, it's not my job to tell you what to do. Do what's best for you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
That's not easy for people to hear. Do what's best for you. I mean, I think that's even though that's a real statement, that's a cliche that people say, but then they want you to do something else. It's
Hmm.
it's not in good faith. Do what's best for you. Do your best, and then if you don't get an A, or do your best, it's just these. You know, the foundation of liberation is not there when they say do what's best for you. It's like we can
How would
even
you
go
say it
back.
differently? Would you say be in choice for your life or make the decisions that work for, because I think where I sit with that is We have been told all of our lives that we're not making the decisions that are best for us, because if we're just centering there's you and there's you that's part of a collective, how do you know like you're making choices that are in alignment with you if you're not choosing what's best for you and also being a part of the collective of liberation?
I think it's not something that we can answer without doing the work. It's not a,
Mm-hmm.
I of course, all my life I thought I've been doing what's best for me.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I didn't choose what's worse for me, or I didn't think that. But I'm saying that, yeah. Um yeah, I mean, it's not like you just come from like a space of examination now, right? You're you're learning how to reflect. You have new uh maybe historical reflections, you have maybe relational reflections, you have better communication. You don't need, you thought you were a good communicator because you know English and you are born in America and you get straight A's in your English class. These are just like, you don't know what's best for you, and then when you go on this journey, you're like undoing these things, and you're like, actually, just because my A does not equal what's best for me, my degree does not equal what's best for me, even though that is what the system said, that's a good thing, right? So you're
Mm-hmm.
examining all of this, and you don't know how to say, you can't really look back with like an expansive lens without doing this work.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear that. I thought I was saying today, like, I really can't stand the English language because maybe it's not do what's best for you. Maybe it's do what sets your soul on fire as you're unlearning and relearning and stay in choice of your journey. I don't know what it is, but the English language for me is, especially, I don't know if you have this experience as a Black woman, it's very challenging because you've been raised to speak a certain way and use words in a certain way. I think the word is etymology, where we don't even know the etymology of the words that we speak. We're just speaking it because it's the language that they gave us, and the language is what they want it to be. And if you don't uphold that language, use the words in the right way or speak it right, I mean, it's like you don't belong or you're wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, you learn the rules, you learn how they say it. It is part of the assimilation. We start to undo the racist normalities of these words now.
Mm-hmm.
We can pick master bedroom, we can pick picnic, we can pick what is it, the peanut gallery, we could pick whatever. And it's like, once you're like, we have normalized this because we don't know who we are, what our roots are, what our um what our values are. So if you knew that in the very beginning didn't align to your value, do we even have other words to replace it? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? And everything is like, I think you were talking about it. Like everything is a violent, like deadline, like um, kill two birds with one stone. Like that used to be a good thing. Now it's like, dang, we always be so violent.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we have to examine why we choose to like think killing two birds with one stone is actually a good thing. I mean, is it a hunting thing? We do. We It's like, okay, what else can I use, because it does perpetuate this normalized violence in the system.
And then what if it's not a word? What if it's just a feeling or a way to be? Like I remember you came in the community and you're like, there's a lot of words. Can I get some video, a picture? And like since then, we're all just like, oh God, too many words. Like, for me, it's just like, man, what if it's like words replace what our bodies feel and how connected our body is to the earth?
Yeah, you need to see a facial expression, and even that is cultural, right? So you're just bounded by, some people looking down and not looking at people is a sign of respect, and some people you need to look them in the eye. It's like you don't know what their culture is, but you demand the standard respectability
Oh
standard.
man.
It's like you don't know where we come from. Like, how could you respect to us is keeping your head down, not looking whatever, you know? I'm just like,
Right.
this is very someone is dominating what respect is for us even.
Yep. Today we talked about like this is all the ideas of these old Caucasian men, and we're just acting like a bunch of Caucasian men in our bodies and not realizing it. Like we have so much work to do.
The
And we
patriarchy is in all of us. It
hell
isn't.
yeah it is.
And I think we need to, like, while we're on live in different platforms, just let it be known now that women can be patriarchal or whatever that word is, patriarchy. Uh, we have those, the systems that are held in our bodies and become
Hmm.
part of our personalities.
Yeah.
We hold other women back. We hold men back. They're not men enough. Like men do that to men, and then now women do that to men, and like nobody's ever enough. And then, you know, and we accept this for ourselves, how we look, how I mean, this is a constant. And of course, bring on the racism, like the racial capitalism, all that stuff. It's like,
I love that you brought made that a point to bring that into the conversation. It's all made up. And women really do uphold patriarchy, and Western feminism, specifically Western white feminism, is basically patriarchy for women. And one of the things I can't stand is when I see white women like fuck men and men are this or fuck white men, and you're just like, what is that going to do? At what point who's gonna help the men? Like who's going to be like, hey, it's harming me, it's harming you?
I
Um,
think men need help too.
they really do. They truly do. They are men that want to be in this work and are afraid of the Western white feminists.
That is deep, man. Like, if we don't undo our patriarchy, which is, you can label it as, the gender roles or the me in the box, whatever that is, or just hierarchical systems, like whatever it is, we're just going to constantly be trying to climb something. And when we climb something, you got to step on other people,
Yep.
and and this binary, it's like there's so much more than male and female. There's so much more than a comparison of, even I don't even like to say the word better anymore. Like better.
Right.
I like it better. I don't know if I like it. That's just my preference. Like I don't even know if I like to say preference. It's like I'm just like, this is, I'm trying to learn new words because everything feels like a comparison to something else that is worse or better. And it's like somebody likes this.
Yeah.
Somebody likes what I like better, or what somebody likes what I really hate. And I know that because I am very often on the other end where people do not like the way it smells, the way So it's like I have to be very careful that I also don't put in better, best, you know, into my vocabulary.
What is vocabulary? You're talking like, what's vocabulary? What is words? What's the meaning behind them? It's like everything has a meaning behind a meaning, and you're just like guessing all the time. Like, I'm wondering, like, for people who are in white bodies who are watching us talk about language, I wonder what their brains are doing right now. Because we have me, a black woman, and you, allows, I don't know if I should say Lao Asian, please correct me.
I'm Lao.
Lao, a Lao woman on here talking about language. And it could be based on our lived experience. And I always get curious, what do they think about language? Are they good with their language because they're used to it? I know for me, it's hard.
I mean, you got to think about language as, you know, it's everything, but when it starts to get systemized, that's when the violence starts happening, right? Like,
Hmm.
I would say that people in the village, we only systemize our language to compete with this patriarchal system. Because just like we don't, our names, I found this out that our names, as much as I was like, oh, I am Aenoy, I'm, returning back to my name, that's how my journey started. We don't, we didn't have names that were first and last name. It was, it was forced upon us by the French. And to say that, and our names, if I can say this in a way, and of course this is my narrative of how I see names now, our names in Lao and in my culture, not the capitalist Lao anymore, but the traditional old school, because it's not a monolith either, right?
Yep.
There's so many. We did this so we could participate in the data collection of the French. So they gave us they
Yeah.
made us force our names, but really all of it was Aenoy is really like little sister, little baby. So we were always in our names was relational to our community. And without our community, my name actually, I've come to the conclusion it doesn't mean anything because I don't have relationship with my community anymore. You
Yeah.
can't be a big sister named Big Sister if you are not with your sister or with your mom. First,
Fact.
if you're named Firstborn, how are you going to be in relationship? Well, why are people calling you Firstborn? You know?
This whole thing about names, right, is so unreal. Let me tell you this. I asked my mom one day, like, why did you name me Maisha? Where did that come from? She's like, oh, it was a lady in my hospital bed next to me going through names. She's like, I heard Maisha. And I was like, oh, okay. We'll spell it Maisha with an I. And then my middle name, I'm like, where'd that come from? I just made it up. So, like, my name is, the T stands for Taia Libra. And I was like, but I'm not a Libra, mom. She was like, it just sounded cool to me. And the more I talked to my mother, I'm like, why did you just make up my name? And she said, I didn't want to give you a slave name. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, my name is Susie Ann. And her sister, I'm not going to say, her sister is Felicia Marie. And when you think about the history of names for Black folk, in the 80s, there was a revolution, 70s and 80s, to reclaim what we thought was cultural, the closest thing to sounding different or African. And so that's how my name was literally made up. But then when you look up Maisha in Arabic, it connects to the Arabic meaning of Aisha, which means life. And I was like, huh, that's cool. So it's really interesting how we have these names and they have some meaning. And I'm grateful for your, like, that cultural context you just gave around your name or not having a name. And it takes me back when you had said master bedroom. I'm like, what the fuck is a master bedroom? Like, what is that? Like, what? Like, I have to have a master bedroom with its own bathroom. Like,
It's the
right now,
master.
it's the
It's where the
master.
master lives and all. He gets the biggest room.
Hey, do you know what that means for women like us when we have to think about master? We have to think of the men that colonized our ancestors, in their bedroom was a space of trigger warning, content warning, sexual exploitation of our ancestors, even during enslavement. And I'm not sure if this story is similar to the story in Laos, but I've read and heard the narratives of what happened in that master bedroom. And so now I'm like, I'm just going to call it a communal space.
The biggest room in the house. It's okay to make it really like, we don't have to attach but we do. But the real estate world, everyone is now conditioned to call it the master bedroom, right?
Well, there's a comment here that says now it's called a primary bedroom. Okay, that's
Let's start
interesting.
with that. I mean, I guess we'll start somewhere, but it's something, you know.
It's something there. I want to share a comment that just came on social media. If you're okay with that, Aenoy.
Yeah.
This is fancy.
Yeah, I don't know what you're doing. I just see you, so.
Yeah. A woman said on Instagram that white women like myself who care about this are unlearning the language we grew up with in our whiteness.
Yeah. I what for me, my question to that viewer is how are white women unlearning their whiteness? in this language?
Ooh,
Like,
that's a good question. How are white women, and I'm going to put a slash white people because there's white people watching this,
or
unlearning
just like single English spoken people. I don't know how to.
English speaking people?
Yeah, because it's more than one, right? It's
Right,
more than just
right.
white people. So
So if you're watching this, our question is, how are English speaking people unlearning whiteness in their language? I'm going to just put it on the screen here too when I'm done. That's a really good question. I'm hoping somebody can answer that. Can y'all answer this? Like, how are, this is probably had, how are y'all like unlearning whiteness in your language? That's a really great question. This, what, how are you learning, Aenoy? Like, how are you? Well, hell, Aenoy, I've seen you reclaiming for like 2 years now, like fully.
it's a journey because, unlearning is the opposite of what you should be doing, right? You
Yep.
need to be constantly learning. But unlearning is I feel like the embodiment part of learning. You learn that it
Mm,
is a colonizing language. This is how they colonize you. They continue to colonize you, continue to belittle you. And my friend and I, Lao sister, were just talking about how our mothers, 50, 60 years old, still to get certain things in the state, you had to learn English. Like, they're brilliant people, yet you're telling them they have to learn the alphabet as if like they did, because they didn't get a certificate in like a degree in school or whatever to get a certain thing. It's like they don't even know what intelligence is, because the intelligence is defined by the English language. You like when I speak to Lao people and they talk about my mom, she's brilliant. Like, but when I swing it over to, the standard of whiteness, it's like she don't know how to speak. She's always yelling. She's not enough. Like, it's like the inferiority that comes with learning the English language makes everyone feel like they're just not enough. And I'm like,
that's
that's gotta
wild.
stop. Like, they're 60 years old. They got plenty of wisdom. They don't need to go, but if you want to play the game, you gotta pretend like you care to speak English.
Duh. I want to share just hearing that from you as we're answering this question. For me lately, it's just like been not even thinking about whiteness, just talking, right? Just talking and letting black vernacular come out as it's going to come out when it's going to come out, and not having to use teacher voice. What does teacher voice look like? Hi, Aenoy, it's Maisha. How are you today? You doing all right? It's like this over comforting, like it could be passive aggressive, but it's like a over comforting, like kindergarten teacher. And so for me, I know that if I start sounding like a kindergarten teacher, then I'm definitely code switching to try to make somebody else feel comfortable. That's the closest thing I can get to it. Like even in my writing, sometimes I'll like say finna, ax. I ask you a question. Some people hear ax. That's not my business. Y'all be all right. I think it's just someone in the comments said they're learning how to get whiteness out their language by reading because they live in a very white community and it's challenging. And then more education of what sort. I would say like listen to people when they say they're speaking in their mother tongue and see what's a mother tongue. Because in some language it's called mother tongue. Go look up a book on AAVE. Watch Love and Hip Hop Miami. You'll see what like start looking at shows and TVs you wouldn't look at. I mean, that's one thing that just came to me.
You bring up a really good point about mother tongue, and that means one thing. And I'm thinking this now. Like, when we're learning from in community, generationally, we're taking what our mother taught us, our father taught us. We're taking that and what we learn, and we're moving and evolving. Language is evolving, right? Like, for I'm excited when they put hangry in the dictionary. Like, wow, a word that we all use, but it really should be that fluid in and that starts to define your community. You talk like this, you talk like that. Like, it starts to really break down community. And I was telling somebody, like, we really got to get off this single learn English the exact same way, because while AI is tracking us, while taking all our data, we can't do anything underground. Uh, Like, you need to kind of play with language, so to throw AI off. Like, we're just doing exactly obeying the
Yep.
system's rules, and when we obey, they can predict what we're doing, where we're going. Well, why would we want to English the hell out of ourselves? Why would we want to do that? I'll learn Arabic. I'll learn, uh, Mandarin. I love, like, I'll learn Lao. Like, it's okay. I'll learn a little Spanish. Let's mix it all up. If my community is, you know, Lao, English, and Spanish, why wouldn't I mix those things up? Why would I only speak English?
Like hearing you say that, like in reflection, is like the new language of resistance needs to be ASL. All of us need to learn sign language. Now, on a camera, I'm not even gonna go there. I'm not gonna say it because then we have to be careful what we say because we are definitely living in like a surveillance society. It's like the Truman Show. What if we all learned sign language and we faced each other, made eye contact, and signed in a way that was a work of resistance? Like we really gotta. It's time. Like this conversation here on language is deep because it's really time to make a to start shifting. The code switch is what I said this morning. This is our version of code switch. Someone else said that, not that I'm solely relying on Black women, but there was a point that I didn't. It was hurtful. So until I recognized that I was hurting people I really love, I had no reason to change. When we know better, we do better. That's Maya Angelou. I want to make sure I say who we've all gotten that idea of knowing better and doing better. And we have another participant who shared as we're talking about language, Aenoy. Just edit this. This is fun. I'm unlearning by reading the right history books and by engaging with people like you. And the master bedroom thing just hit me. I think it just hit me too, both of us. But I'm curious about the right history book because what's the right history book?
Mm-hmm.
Who wrote it? Because there are some history books that were written by Black folk, but were written still in support of whiteness and white supremacy. So what are the history books that you're reading? Another person just said, I have one more thing to say about language after I read this one out loud, which was I didn't realize that saying certain words like hostile or angry could trigger Black women since they were framed to be angry Black women. Yeah, that happens a lot in corporate spaces. So someone will say, "Why are you so angry?" Um, when I think of language, I have so many stories. I remember, now I'm not saying this might sound performative, but I'm just trying to be relatable. I don't even know what it's going to sound like someone said. So when I was like growing up in the suburbs, there were two girls that came from Laos, Nina and V. One was Vietnamese and one was from Laos. And I just remember the kids were so mean to them because they would bring their own lunch and they would speak their own mother tongue. And I was known, it shouldn't be surprising, as the person who would just speak up like, y'all are hella rude. Leave them alone. Like, stop. That's their culture. Deal with it. Like, people had kids, they just hated me because they knew I was going to say something. And it just doesn't surprise me to this day. Like, you can hear people on these social media apps, speaking of culture, making fun of culture, like actually getting into blackface. And I don't know what it's called um, for Southeast Asian or Asian folk, but what do you all call it when you see people basically taking on your culture and turning them into memes and not saying your language, but making fun of your mother tongue? Like, how is that for you, Aenoy? Like, when we think about even making jokes about language and how, like, it could be a form of like racism or oppression.
I mean, I don't know. I don't have a story about. I mean, I have stories, the personal, and I don't want to expose anyone, so I'm not going to tell those stories. But I'll tell you right now, I will, being on red, I am seeing a lot of us Americans dismantling what language is, what community is,
Oh,
what
that's dope.
it's like. I mean, I'm not trying to bounce social media, but one, it's MAGA free because they don't want to go to no Chinese app, right? Um, Two, it's like the and I understand that when I'm admiring red at this very moment, it is a bit of fetish fetish fetishize.
Fetishization,
I
fetish,
can't say it right. Fetishizing, you know, and Orientalism, right? And it's a
is it
form of
like
just,
xenophobia? No.
but that's the opposite. No, it's like you really
Fetishization,
love,
like,
like,
ooh, yeah.
ooh, people are allowed gawking at Asian men as like, wow, like thirst trapping them. And it's like, y'all never thirst trapped them before.
They
Hmm.
didn't. I mean, no,
They
I'm
were
not gonna
seeing,
say this.
they had all types of
They didn't.
stereotypes in Asian men, right? And now that you're like, you're undoing it. Now you see beauty in Asian men. Like, that shit is whack. It is wonderful, and it's kind of whack, and you know it is. But it's interesting because even though it's whack, you knew that you were whack, and you're learning. It's like this whole pendulum swinging,
Yeah.
and and I even it was I'm like, even I am, being an Asian person, being Lao, learning about the stereotypes that I perpetuate in Chinese people. It is a beautiful thing because once you see people as humans, you don't stereotype them.
Yeah.
And the guy, and they're so good at propaganda. Like, they see it right away. They're like, if what media does is take a picture of, shit and zoom in on that shit, and they're like, and they say that's all of China. I'm like, yeah, that's what they do.
Yeah.
I'm like, you simplified propaganda in the biggest way. Like, you
They
just,
did. They've
thank you.
always made us believe that there's no propaganda in the United States of America. We're the land of the free. We're just showing you what we know, protecting you from those people, from their communism. And do you know, in my lived experience, the people I have met from communist countries are the most loving, embraceful, I don't want to say all of them, majority folk. They welcome you. You know what I'm saying? And you learn a lot about yourself meeting families from countries such as China. I'll even throw in Cuba. You learn so much about yourself. The one thing I will say is that I appreciate about the Note app is so many people are waking up to, oh, I got to deconstruct.
And
And
we're not
that,
just getting it from like a single book or a single narration. These are thousands of different variations of people's talking about their culture. So it's like you're learning all of it, right? And it's
yeah,
like the fact that, we're in their space and they're still
yeah,
kind to us, and we clearly are colonizing their space, and they're
yeah,
still kind to us. I'm just like, this is how it's supposed to be. They're trained to deal with diversity. Now, of course, there's levels of, perpetual whiteness that they want to be like Americans, and they still perpetuate the stuff, and you can still see it, right? They're still, but they're, in terms of their statement, over and over and over, they say we do not allow racism. Now, do they know anti-blackness? Probably not.
no,
Okay. So it's but that's what I'm saying, is like, there's always something that they cannot see unless they're around or being taught by somebody. But right now, it's a really cool culture exchange, and I really like it for this very moment. I can't say I'm gonna like it forever and all that stuff, but considering TikTok is now Trump talk, I don't even want to go back. I'm like, okay, so
yeah. I think um I think I'm gonna post this comment here in a second, sorry. But I think that the only thing, like for me, when I saw people flocking, I'm like, oh, it's digital colonization. I hope we don't go there. And I saw Americans like, I can't get the upload, I can't get access, they won't approve me. But then when I saw the blackface, And I was like, unfortunately, I can't join. And that's my thing with joining apps right now because we don't talk about anti-blackness enough.
Mhm.
I I would get banned off the app quick. They would see me as propaganda. But I'm in support of everyone going over there and opening themselves up to learning so much about themselves and other cultures. I mean, I never thought that people would be learning Mandarin Chinese so fast and
This
connect.
is when you don't have a home, you have to assimilate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying TikTok was people's home.
Yeah.
It really was. And just like we have to assimilate, now Americans are assimilating by choice.
Yep.
It is by choice. And it is something that it's like now you see the challenge of learning a new language. Now
Mm-hmm.
you see the challenge of being an outcast when everyone's talking Chinese or whatever, and like you don't understand. Now you see how much effort you have to go on a different app to translate to come back, and hopefully you say it right. Hopefully you look stupid. Like that inferior feeling is honestly, it's a practice.
Yep.
It's like you don't get to always feel superior, and it really is. We're learning a lot, and I'm grateful um that that's one way I'm seeing us decolonizing language.
Yeah. And I want to add one last comment while we're talking about language. Someone said that the thirst trapping looks like capitalist commodification of humanity. It's great that more people are being seen as thirst worthy, but the commodification overall is still gross. It's interesting, like this idea of thirst trapping. I'm just sitting with that. Like it's almost like thirst trapping is like becoming pop culture in America, but that's for another conversation.
They gotta put somebody up there in a little pedestal. That whole, it's like you see somebody, you know them for a little bit, and you want them. It ain't
Yeah.
gonna last too long.
Hopefully.
Marry that person, see what happens.
Yeah, uh-huh. Marry that thirst trap. Watch what happens. It's
Marry
gonna
your
be like,
thirst trap.
no, no, this is not what I signed up for.
Yeah, you gotta have deeper relational, but that's what happens. We romanticize, right? Our what we see is we're constantly romanticizing things, and it's like
When was the last time we like romanticized ourselves and our relationship with ourselves and not things and other people? I don't even know.
hmm.
But this has been a beautiful conversation on language.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, we need to talk about it more because I mean, we're upholding whiteness as we talk in English too. So, and one thing I want to say, Maisha, I've been in the community for a couple years, maybe 3 years, and I want to have beef because as I was talking about, um, something hit me about food and how food supremacy, and yet I've been in community, and not that I'm thick in it like every week or whatever, but like people know me, and yet nobody attempted to talk or learn Lao. I'm like, we're in relational. Why am I always speaking in English?
I mean, that's a great question. And all I'm going to ask you to do is what day and what time we getting on this Zoom to learn Laos.
I'm just like, I put
I'm
my
just saying.
effort in. I'm so
I
sick and
think we
tired.
should. I think we've been talking about crafts and cooking, and I want to say my apologies if I did not make that offer myself because I never thought about it. But like even your whole talk on food supremacy, what if you did that whole thing in Laos and we had to get it transcribed and learn how to repeat it back to you? Like
How
I'm
much
down.
work would that be? I mean, we all go through this as we live here, right?
Yep,
But it's a practice. And I'm like,
it's a
we're not
practice.
practicing reaching out to people
We're
that
not.
are different.
That's
Reading a book. Okay, what language are you reading it in?
that's the one thing I will support you and have your back about. The one thing that our collective needs to get better at is decenter yourself and reach out to someone you haven't seen in a long time. Get connected. But back to your this is about language. I'm okay, Aenoy, when we learn in Laos. Is it once a month? Like are we what are we
You
doing?
know, you know, you know, I'm telling you, this might be the thing. If y'all learn Lao, we could go to Laos.
We can have our trip.
I have land and a home that nobody wants to live in. And
You've
I'm
been
just
talking
like, if y'all could just comfort yourself, there's space and you wouldn't feel so awkward, but you don't even try because you're comfortable speaking in English all the time. You
Well, I'm
see
ready.
us as like weirdos, like speaking. I'm like, you know me for years now, and like nobody gives like I'm like one of the things I said to be supportive in my food, like in the household or whatever, is like, how about you say let's go eat Lao food? How about not you, but you
I
say,
know
oh,
what you mean.
did you run out of their stinky paste that you like? Like, how could I support you? Because for dang sure I go eat everybody's food and nobody says, oh, you know how hard it is to find basic things, and when we finally make it, then it's like, ooh, I don't like it like this, I like it like that, I don't like it like that. It's like, it's like, God,
Food supremacy.
imagine me eating a french fry. I mean, I still don't like it, but I eat it.
I would say oxtails, but I think you already eat oxtails, so
Yeah, I've eaten
um
oxtails, they're delicious.
see? But like to your point, like you said two things that are if you're a member of our collective, we need to hold each other accountable. One, we need to take there's a class two classes. I'm proposing loud, we need to learn your language once a month, however you want to do it. We'll talk offline. And then two, sign language. We got a member in our community that's fully speaks sign language. What are we doing? And then the third piece is like check on somebody. Like, don't come in the space like, oh my God, I'm going through so much. When I do that, I usually say, what y'all need? Anybody got a request? We don't make requests. And I think in other cultures, making requests and being direct is normal.
They ask, and I have to tell my father, even he says things, oh, they're gonna ask me, he's avoiding something, because I go, let them ask.
Yep.
Let them ask, and you can say yes or no. How
Yep.
hard is that? But we already predict that we can or cannot achieve this, and we think we know what they're gonna ask. It's like we need to completely exchange and maybe feel rejected. Being rejected is not that bad, but being rejected in this system feels bad because there's so much shame in rejection.
And
Like
that's the
rejection's
thing.
not that bad.
We all get it every day in this system. Look what happened today. We all just collectively went through it. Well, I mean, I was offline. I was with, but anyway, still went through it. Bystander effect. But yeah, if you could leave the folks with any last thing annoyed to share or to say just around language, learning other languages, asking for help, what would you say?
To be supportive in other people who come from different cultures, you got to meet them halfway.
Mm.
You don't always, don't let them always come to you, because that is very exhausting. Like maybe you make their food. Maybe you say, I want to make something, and let them help you. Like we're here, right? We're just only going to do things that are, it, yes, we want to do things easy, but it's easy when we do them together. That's the whole thing, is like, it's easy when we do it together. And, you know, I'm grateful that I learned English in a Lao community, because we all did that together.
Wow.
If I learned English by myself, that would be really hard for me. So that's what your community is really about. Like leverage your community, and like have different communities, but also, don't use so much English. I
You
don't know.
don't have me in Google
Sorry.
Translate, like just typing in and like learning little statements, but I thank you, Aenoy, for that feedback because that's something that I don't think about too often. Absolutely. We absolutely need to make asks of each other. Stop waiting for people, Black, Indigenous, Asian, Southeast Asian, to bring stuff up all the time. Learn a different language and open up our hearts. I think that's a beautiful message.
Yeah.
So I want to thank all of you all for hanging out and watching, everyone on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. This replay will be up in about 5 minutes. This was just a beautiful conversation on language and how we need to free ourselves from the oppressor's language by building community in multiple languages. That's what I got. Cooking together and making requests of each other. So Aenoy and I will be back again. This was fun. Who
This was
knows?
fun. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, anytime. I hope you all have a great rest of your evening and see y'all later.